What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for turning to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Steven Thompson, coming at you with another Inside Pitt practice report, our final one of training camp following practice number 20 from Pitt training camp. The Panthers wrapped up their summer training camp today. The next time I talk to you, it will be game week. The Panthers will be officially getting ready to turn their attention to Wofford and play the first regular season game of the year. Two position battles have officially come to a close. That is, after all, what training camp is really all about. But it's the starting quarterback and the punter job. Obviously, Phil Dracovic has been the starting quarterback since spring ball. Pat Narduzzi named him a long time ago, and nothing has changed on that front. And then Caleb Junko with the announcement that he was put on scholarship that was yesterday. He has clearly earned the starting punting job, and Pat Narduzzi confirmed that today. But as we wrap up training camp and as we look towards game week, I want to look back and I want to think about three big things that I learned at training camp and that I took away from these last 4 weeks. So we'll start there. We'll start with number one. The offense is going to be different. If nothing else, Pitt is going to look a lot different than they did last year when they have the ball in their hands. Whether or not they're actually successful doing the things they want to do, who knows? But one thing I do know is that they're going to take their shots. There's no Israel Abanikanda, so the home run hits are going to have to come from somewhere else, and that'll be in the passing game. And there are a couple reasons why. First of all, that's Jerkovic. From his demeanor to his arm to his intelligence to his experience and his mobility, this guy is much more suited to put the ball in the air for the Panthers this year, and they plainly have more confidence in him because of that. They believe in his leadership. They believe in his athletic ability. They believe in his arm, of course. And this just all adds up to the passing game having more confidence around it than it has honestly, since Kenny Pickett was there. I mean, that's not a long time, but even when we heard about what Keaton Slovis could do throwing the football and what kind of players Kanata, Mumfield, and Bub Means were, there was still much more faith. There still, wasn't a whole lot of faith behind the passing game. There was much less confidence. It was more, yeah, we know the potential is there, but we'll see how it comes out in the field. And there's still a little bit of that apprehension right now, but you can tell that people feel much more sure. People within the program feel much more sure about the state of the passing game heading into the season than they did last year. Another reason why I think is because the pass catchers have also made strides. Bub Means, Kanata Mumfield, like I said, Gavin Bartholomew have all improved by all accounts through spring and summer. And in addition to feeling more confident with the guy throwing them the guy throwing them the ball feels real confident in the guys catching the ball. And those top three guys, the guys who I would expect to lead this team in receptions, kind of go 1, 2, 3 in whatever order you may like them, they've gotten a lot better, and they've been kind of the talk of camp coming out of these practices, and they've been a big reason why Pitt feels more comfortable taking these deep shots as well. It's going to be a lot less running the ball with a guy like Israel Abanikanda waiting on him to hit those home runs, and they're going to put the ball in Phil Jerkovic's hands because they believe in the guy who's throwing them and the guys who will be on the receiving end of it. I think also you add in the addition of Dejon Reynolds, those four freshman receivers we love to talk about, and even Malcolm Epps, transfer tight end from USC. They love his athletic ability as well. We talked about him in our last video, but combining all of these things, the improvements of the returners, and then some real talented additions through either the transfer portal or high school recruiting makes the quarterbacks trust that the guys that they're going to throw the ball to both know what they're doing and that they have the experience and the athletic ability and the talent to come down with some of these deep shots and these big plays that the Panthers are going to try to hit on. And then I'll kind of repeat my final reason, kind of the thing that everyone has said throughout the course of training camp on offense, and that's that continuity matters. A second year in Frank Signetti's offense, even with some new faces, you think mainly about Jerkovic, but that's a guy who also has played under Frank Signetti and played in this offense before. He's not afraid of it, and he knows it, and he has experience in it. So they won't really shy away from putting the ball in his hands and trusting that he knows what he's doing. And that's true of everyone in the offense as well. You return at least 4 starters, depending on how you define a starter. Branson Taylor and Ryan Jacoby had a few starts here or there alongside Jake Cradle and Blake Subovic and Matt Goncalves, who all started most of the year. There's a lot more continuity there, like we said, with Mumfield and Means as well, and Rodney Hammond. Like, there's a ton of experience across the board that makes the Panthers more confident that there won't be that kind of learning curve. That the Panthers won't have to get kind of warmed up as the season goes and feel each other out. Signetti feeling his players out, and then the players also feeling out Signetti. So that continuity really matters, and I think in my limited viewing of what we've seen at practice, that comes through, and when you talk to these guys, that comes through as well. Moving on to the next thing I learned from Pitt training camp, it's that MJ Devonshire is a bona fide star. At the NFL Combine in March, when I was talking to the Pitt players in attendance, they were all asked, "Who's going to be here next year? Who from your team is kind of next up?" For lack of a better term, and they almost universally said Devonshire. They all have faith in his abilities and his potential as a pro. According to Pat Narduzzi, it's not smart to throw his way. His helmet is covered in takeaway stickers, and it's not just the quantity, but it is the quality of those takeaways. He has gone up to make some incredible interceptions, according to Narduzzi, during their jersey scrimmages. Excuse me. So he's a walking turnover at the moment in a cornerback room that is known for deflecting passes and causing turnovers between him, Marquez Williams, and AJ Woods. But not only is Devonshire a shutdown corner, but he's an all-league return man too as a punt returner. He can really do it all for this team. And if the Panthers didn't already have so many playmakers on offense, I thought you might see him a little bit with the ball in his hands as well. Think Jordan Whitehead in 2015. But they're going to stick with Devonshire on on defense as a corner and then as a return man. But this Devonshire has a chance to be this year's best player, like the best player on this Pitt team, point blank. Maybe not the most impactful, especially thinking of what Jurkovec and Means and some other guys could do just in terms of impact to the overall team. But Devonshire is probably one of the most talented, if not one of the most versatile, and one of the best. So I'm all in on MJ Devonshire, not just as a really good player at the college level, but then getting to that next level, thinking of him as a pro prospect. I think he has all the talent in the world and will be, unsurprisingly, a big part of this year's team. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him named a captain tomorrow at the kickoff luncheon as well. And we'll finish it up with point number 3. The third thing I learned at Pitt training camp this year is that there is kind of a changing of the guard on defense. I think attention has shifted away from the defensive line and the safeties and towards the corners and the linebackers. And a lot of that just has to do with experience. Historically, you think about corner and linebacker, those haven't exactly been positions of strength under Pat Narduzzi during his tenure here in Pittsburgh, but I think that really changes this year with experience being the big divider. You think about the turnover that the defensive line went through, losing not just Kalijah Cansey, but Deslin Alexander, Habakkuk Baldonado, John Morgan, and others. There's a lot to overcome. The same is true at safety, losing Brandon Hill and Eric Hallett. You bring in, Javon McIntyre and PJ O'Brien, even Donovan McMillan and Steph Hall. There's some talent there. Same on the defensive line with Sean Fitzsimmons, DeAndre Jules, even some experience. Devin Green, Devin Danielson, Nakai Johnson and Dayon Hayes. There's talent there, not a lot of experience, and especially not starting experience. So that is not the case when you think about the linebackers and the corners this year. You return Shane Simon and Bengali Kamara and Solomon DeShields, who played a little bit as well. And then you're bringing back Brandon George at the linebacker. Those 3 corners extensively, Devonshire, Woods, and Williams. It's not that there aren't studs on the defensive line or at safety, but I'm putting most of my stock into what the linebackers and corners can do for this defense as well. And I think that'll change how teams attack the Panthers this year. Just think about how you might attack them if you were an offensive coordinator. You're not throwing at Devonshire, Marquez, or AJ Woods. You're just asking for picks and pass deflections. You're not going to test Kamara on the outside or Simon in the middle. Those are 2 hard hitters with strong pass coverage chops. You're going to try and wear down a defensive line that has some youth in it, or you're going to get some slot receivers to get a free run at PJ O'Brien, who's in a Pat Narduzzi defense that's going to force him to play off the line a little bit. That is how you're going to look to attack and exploit the holes in this Pitt defense, because the holes are not at linebacker and they are certainly not at corner. And like I said, that's pretty different from other stuff that we've seen in the past at Pitt under Pat Narduzzi's tenure over the past few years. That's what I've got from you. Those are the three biggest things that I learned at Pitt training camp this year. There will be more to come as we start the regular season next week. But thank you so much for tuning into all of these Inside Pitt practice reports that I've brought you from Pitt training camp. Like I said, we'll keep it going next week as the regular season starts. We'll have more content for you on our YouTube page. So make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/Inside the Panthers. And make sure to continue to follow our reporting from training camp and from the regular season all throughout the 2023 football season for Pitt. Until the next time, I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks a lot.